The following program is presented with support from CSL Behring, Takeda, and Grifols.
Hello, and welcome to ChronicXTwenties, a podcast from the Immune Deficiency Foundation, which explores living with a rare disease in early adulthood. In this two-part pilot episode, two members of the Immune Deficiency Foundation's Youth Advisory Committee, Cassie Mummert and Victoria Medl, discuss mental health coping strategies, spirituality, and the complications and joys of dating other people with rare diseases. Content warning. This podcast features sensitive subject matter, such as mental health, bullying, religion, suicide, and confronting mortality. The views expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views of the Immune Deficiency Foundation, its employees, sponsors, or board of trustees. Listener discretion is advised.
I think that Cassie and I can't speak for Cassie, but our attitudes going into a relationship with someone who has a chronic illness, we have this sort of mutual understanding of, all the hardships and possible outcomes that having an illness has. We're able to really, truly in its core understand each other. And I feel like that's not very common. It's something that Jesse and I both really cherish, and we're both very vocal about how we're feeling, and what's going on with us. And we never hold this sort of resentment towards each other if we're not feeling well, and if we can't physically have time to spend with each other, even if that be over the phone. So it's this incredibly deep bond that we have that is very uncommon, I guess, in other aspects. I mean, even people in your own family or friends, for example, may not understand your illness or understand your hardships in the same way that your partner does if he's going through the same thing that you are. So it's this incredibly special bond that we have. Not to say that us both having chronic illnesses is not difficult. It is incredibly difficult, and we also go into it acknowledging the bad things that can happen. You have to go into a relationship with the knowledge that, something bad could happen to either one of you. And you have to understand the grief that can come along with that, and how you will bounce back if something does happen to either one of you. And that's not a thing that a lot of people understand or have to acknowledge. Even if you're healthy, it's not something that you really think about. But for us, it's something that we can't take for granted. The time that we have with each other, we can't take it for granted. And I think that makes it even more special, especially being long distance too, when we already don't get a great amount of time to spend with each other. It makes the time that we spend with each other even more impactful and more special. And it just confirms that, this person is the one for you. So it is heartbreakingly beautiful to have a partner who understands and has an illness, but it's at the same time absolutely devastating, because you don't want anyone else going through the same thing that you're going through. So that's a little bit of my perspective on it, I guess.
Vicky, I love what you said. Heartbreakingly beautiful. I think that should be the title of this, just saying. I think that sounds great. That's really cool. No, I think you pretty much summed up how I feel as well. I mean, because not only are we dating someone with very similar illnesses to ourselves, but also being in long distance. I feel like those are two, not necessarily cons, but and bad things necessarily, but struggles in itself independently, and then when you put them together, it's just like, ugh, like, I don't know. It seems like, I don't know, I never thought I would date or be with someone who had health issues. I always kind of, whenever I thought about my future, I always saw myself with someone who was healthy that could take care of me when I was sick or when I'm down. Um, I wouldn't change that for the world that I'm with Ethan. He absolutely takes care of me whenever we are together, like in person, and he takes care of me in every way that he can right now when we're apart. Um, and so it's really, I don't know, it's really nice. There's a lot of things that him and I joke about that I said I would never do, that I'm currently doing. Like I said, I would never date someone younger than me. He is like a year and some younger than me, so that's very funny. He likes to throw that at me a lot. So I don't know. I just think that's like kind of funny in it all. But overall, it is very, I think, stressful. Not being able to see them every day or check in, like, I guess as much as you could if you were together. Especially with having the health issues, like, you know, on top of it. But Ethan and I try to, like you said, Vicky, like try to communicate. We're really good, I think, with our communicating and being able to tell each other what we're feeling, how we're feeling, and being open. We also, actually, I know we'll probably talk about this later, but Ethan and I do the Grape Journal together. So I have the Grape Journal in person here, and him and I both like do entries in my book every day. I'll ask him like what was a positive about today, or what encouraged you, things, the words of grape. Like, and so we'll talk, and then I'll write them down. And then also he kind of added a fun thing to it. He says like goals for either tomorrow or goals for just like a week, or it doesn't really have a timeline, I guess, or a timestamp on it. But he does talk like about the goals that he wants to accomplish. And it's not necessarily like physical. It could also be like your mental or emotional goals as well, or where you want to see yourself. So I thought that was a really cool touch that he added.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think too, I've become a lot, like, I guess, mentally and emotionally stronger than I used to be, by being in a relationship with someone who also has a lot of health issues. I think there's a lot of trust that goes into relationships anyway. Um, and it's just like you trust that person to be open and honest. I think more so than a normal relationship, or normal in air quotes, what is normal, but I guess a healthier person wise relationship, and like illness wise. Because like I said, you can't see them like in person, you can't physically see how they're doing, so you're just going by text or phone call. Ethan and I try to FaceTime, once or twice every day if we can. There's times where neither of us really feel bad, and to piggyback what Vicky said, neither of us hold resentment towards the other if we don't feel up to FaceTiming. We both are pretty honest and open and just respect one another enough to know, like, hey, it's, like, yes, you're feeling bad. And like, for instance, like there was just a day or a night, I guess, where I really wanted to talk to Ethan. But that wasn't a good time with him being in the hospital at the time. His nurse was in or something. And so he was like, hey, I can't talk right now. We'll just have to do our normal FaceTime. At first, I was kind of upset because I was like, well, I just really missed you and I want to talk to you. But like, it's whatever. Like, it's all good. And then like I was kind of hurt at the beginning. And then I took a step back and was like, well, no, that's not really fair of you to feel like that necessarily. Like, he's also struggling. And, so it's like you do have your moments, but you're able to bounce back pretty quickly, I feel, especially talking to them and being open and honest.
I think it definitely helps too, being in a relationship with a person that you trust so deeply, because you know that they value your time and they only have your best interests at heart. So you never have that sort of like guilt or what's some blame that you put on the other person too, because of it. And I know you had talked about your Grape Journal, and I actually wanted to ask you a bit about that. Because I know it's been a almost like a lighthouse for you. It's gotten you out of some really, really difficult times, especially when you were just diagnosed too. And also, I know that you mentioned you recently got baptized, because I got baptized too in May, and I found for me personally, drawing closer in my faith and in my relationship to God has improved my mental health quite drastically. So I guess if you want to talk about your Grape Journal and your journey with faith, I would love to hear more about it.
Yeah. So my Grape Journal, I started, well, I guess my mom technically started it. I just use it. But she helped me. I was in a really dark place after getting diagnosed. And I think I was on treatment. I was on IVIG at the time for about, I think, a month or two. And I had a really hard appointment where I wasn't feeling good from one of them. And we were driving. It was like an hour and a half or 2 hour drive home. I forget what it was, but a long drive. And she I had my music playing, and she asked me like, "What's your favorite color?" And I just remember looking at her like from the passenger seat, like, "No, we're like, you already know my favorite color. We are not doing this." To preface this, I was like 15, 14, 15. So, I was kind of your moody teenage girl, just a little bit, but then also being on steroids, the roid rage is real.
What is? Yeah.
Yeah. So you can imagine, I was kind of mouthy, but I think she forgives me, hopefully. Um, but I remember looking at her like, no, we're not doing this. Like, my favorite color. And she's like, no, what's your favorite color? I was like, purple. And she's like, okay, what's something that's purple? And I was like, why are you asking me this? This is pointless. Like, I just want to listen to my music. And she's like, no, what's something that's purple? And I was like, grapes. And she goes, okay. And this whole conversation took the whole ride home, like literally the whole hour and a half to 2 hours, because I'm pretty sure there was traffic that day. Felt like an eternity, to be honest. But we came up with grape, and it's I had to come up with a positive word for each letter of grape, and so it's grateful, rewarding, attitude, positive, and encouraging. And then when we got home, she took a composition notebook and put like purple scrapbook paper, just like cardstock paper, on the front, and wrote grape and wrote the grape words, and decorated it with purple stickers. And she made me a grape beaded bracelet that was just all purple beads and spelled grape on it. And she gave it to me, and she had made herself one too. And that night she sat down with me and she said, okay, we're going to journal. And I was like, oh boy.
What did I get?
And right, exactly. And so I was like, okay. And she said, okay, for grape, we're going to come up with 3 things that were positive in the day. And I was like, okay. And she's like, it has to pertain to your 5 positive words. I was like, okay. I was like, at first I was kind of like, well, this is going to be easy. Not really. It's not very easy. Especially when it was like hard days all the time. I thought it was going to be easy. I like to believe it was, but it wasn't. And for the days that you got your positive entries, then she had this vase for us, and well, a vase for like each of us. She had 2. And we had purple like glass beads, and then we had clear glass beads or a different color. And for every positive entry that we did, if you got 3 positive entries, you put 3 purples in. But on some days I could only find 1 or 2 positives, and then I left the other like 1 or 2 spots blank. Then you would add a clear or different colored bead to the vase. And so over time, as you're doing your entries, you can see how many good days you had over bad. And so we stopped the vase thing after a little bit because the vases got full and you don't really have anywhere to put the beads and but it was nice. I think I kept a full jar just to see that there was still positives in every day even when it was a bad day. And I got to see how far I'd come. Like I think it was like over a year or something that the vase kept. But I still do the grape journal. Like nowadays I've had to, I think, make myself another 2 or 3 since then. A good handful. But and then I just recently at the Chicago Teen Escape I got to make
Yes.
yes, I got to make a whole bunch and hand them out with beaded bracelets that say grape and got to like share that with others. And that was really rewarding for me because it was like, I never thought it could be something as cool. Oh, that's awesome. I never thought it could be something like as cool and as like, I don't know, big as it is now. I didn't think it was really something that like I wanted to share. I mean, I've been involved in IDF since 2015. So the whole time I've been involved, I've been using and doing my grape journal, but I never thought to talk about it until just recently. But I'm very grateful that I did, and I'm very grateful that IDF gave me the opportunity to share it with others and speak about it. And I'm excited to see like who all it can like reach and help because I know it was super helpful for me and super like just I think it showed where even though it was like dark, there was still light, which was really cool. And that was something that like I needed back then, which was like, and too, I think it helped with me remembering like, because I don't remember the bad stuff. All I remember now when I look back is what I wrote in the grape journal. And there's like 3 that I could tell you the stories about that's for another day, but they were very cool that I don't think I would have remembered or even like thought too much about if I didn't have the grape journal to think about and be like, look for positives in the day. So I'm very grateful that like I have those memories and that experience too. So
Yeah. Really, really a beautiful thing that you've done. I was so happy to see your grape journal at the conference and your little grape bracelets as well. I think that they are helping so many patients and kids who are struggling with their health journey. And I know, I mean, it's helping me now, but I know little Vicky, like 14, well, not so little, I guess, but littler Vicky, really would have liked to have something like that. So I think it's really beautiful.
thank you.
Yeah, of course. And how has your journey with faith been?
Yes. So I got baptized June 21st. I actually have on my baptism shirt that I got that day. It says I have decided to follow Jesus. And it was really cool. I got baptized with another whole family. I think there was like 7 of them. And so I was kind of the odd one out, but they welcomed me and kind of accepted me in their family. I think I was actually in their family photo that they took. They were like, come on, let's just all get together. And they still just put their arms around me like, here, get in the photo. So that's kind of fun. But I've been a Christian, I think, like since I was real little. I remember going to church when I was like elementary and everything. And then probably about the time that my mom started my grape journal, I think I lost my faith a little bit. Made some questionable decisions here and there. Not like bad, but enough to make you like, yeah, that wasn't good. Like that, looking back, that's not who I wanted to be. It was, just a rough time. And I think everyone makes mistakes, obviously. No one is perfect. And so there was a lot to learn back then. And I wish I wish I knew what I knew now, but it's all good. That's life. But we just started going back to church in February. During COVID, we did like online church. And we watched some pastors online, and like it was cool. And they had a church that we could have gone to, but we went once and it was just not the church for us. We were like, okay. And then we just recently started going to this new church in February, and it's been awesome. Like I said, I got baptized June 21st, and that was probably the absolute best decision I could have ever made. Um, I, I, as cliche as it sounds, I truly feel like a different person from that day on. Um, I feel happier. I feel like clearer in the head. I still
Mhm.
have my bad days for sure. I still have my depression for sure and my anxiety, but it no longer has this dark hold on me like I used to let it. Um, I do Bible studies with my mom. Do a Bible study with Ethan. And then obviously going to church, you learn more and more about the Bible and in a different way than what you would if you just read it alone. And so that's been really cool to do like all three differently, but you're still learning, who God is. And that's been really helpful for me. I actually joined what they call the Dream Team, and it's where you serve in the church. And so I was on the worship team. That didn't work out due to like pain and stuff. I'm not able to stand, and it's just not the right timing, not the right thing for me to do right now. But I am able to work in the nursery there, which is my absolute favorite thing. I'm in the nursery and with the toddlers. I absolutely adore kids. So that's been really cool for me to do. I serve like once or twice a month. Um, they never do it back to back Sundays because they don't want you to get burnt out. But that's always really like cool for me to wake up and be like, oh yeah, I get to serve today, and like I get to go hang out with babies and toddlers. So like it's fun, and it's fun to see them like how they learn the stories that you're teaching them. Um,
Mhm.
so and like how they interpret things, and when they learn Bible verses, especially the toddlers, they're cute when they learn those. but, but yeah, it's truly been life changing. Like I said, I do feel clear. I feel happier. It's easier for me to see the positives, I feel. And I'm learning, like I've always known everything happens for a reason, but what we think is our plan is never really our plan. It's always God's plan and God's timing. And that's what I'm reminding myself with Ethan's situation as well. Is like, even though it doesn't seem like this is not what is supposed to be happening, none of us wish it were happening, but ultimately, like, it is in God's hands and He is the ultimate healer. So I just have to remind myself that daily.
Yes, I completely agree. Yeah, I know for me it was a really transformative experience to realize who God was, um, and why Jesus died for us. And it just really makes your whole life and all the things that you've gone through, everything that you've suffered with, almost worthwhile, um, because you know that this is not all that there is to your life, and there is beauty, there's surrenderance, there is like so much that we can look forward to, not only in life but after. But I know when I was growing up, and when I was still struggling a lot with infections and whatever the heck else I had going on, just we still don't know. But it was really, really easy for me to um, drown myself in work. I had this really, really bad habit of just locking myself in my room, and not coming out, not eating or drinking, and just, you know, taking your mind off of the pain and off of the illness, by keeping your mind busy with other things. And honestly, it doesn't sound like a really terrible thing to drown yourself in work, especially if you're like a procrastinator or something like that. But it was a very maladaptive thing because that also didn't help my health. I mean, I was getting sick constantly because I wouldn't eat very much and I couldn't eat very much. I would also drop weight. And it became like this sort of cycle of, oh, I am not helping my case whatsoever. And I kind of feel sorry for myself, but I don't know how to stop. Um, so I guess that was one maladaptive behavior. I didn't really have any other outlet besides school. And then when I couldn't even be in school, it was like, oh, what do I do now? I don't know. And I had taken actually a hiatus from piano lessons too, because I was so sick. And so I started piano lessons back up again. I was like right before I went to high school, and that helped me tremendously. It was like as if as soon as I sat down at the piano, all of my problems disappeared. Even if my siblings were like running rampant or they were screaming upstairs, like I just was unbothered by it. I just didn't care because I would just sit down and I would play, and I would lose myself in the piece that I was learning. And it's something so magical about having music and having an art form to fall back on, because it's a way that you can express yourself, and it's a way you can express yourself that's unlike any other way that you can. It's almost like you're spilling out your soul when you're playing music. So that for me was really a huge thing. And it was also, spending time with my family. There would be times where I physically could not spend time with them, because I live with my grandmother, so I take care of her, and my family is down the street. So I mean, it's not like we're far away from each other, but the thing was, if I got sick or anyone was sick at home, no, you can't. You are not allowed to go home. You've been banned. So, and that happened a lot, especially during cold and flu season. Uh, so I would be kind of secluded from my family at home. But also a big thing was that helped me get through all of it was being here with my grandmother and helping take care of her. It kind of gave me another sense of purpose. Like all of my illnesses and trials are because I can connect better to my grandmother's issues and how she's feeling. So in a way, we have this really beautiful interdependence on each other, on one another, rather. And I find so much fulfillment in caring for her. And that's also made me realize that I really want to go into medicine because I want to be able to expand that in any way that I can. So all of these, I guess, these little things, I mean, some are better ways to cope than others, of course. But they all made me kind of realize that we have a greater plan. Our suffering is not worthless, although sometimes we feel like it absolutely is, and that there's no rhyme or reason to any of it. But it's really reminiscent of how we can live our lives to have meaning, to have purpose, despite all of the hardships we face. So yeah, that's kind of been where I am now too, because I'm still going back and forth between diagnoses and I still don't have answers.
Oh gosh.
So I'm relying on people, piano, school, God,
Yeah.
to, get me through and be like, please, someone throw me a bone here because this is terrible.
Right.
But, that is
Well, I'm very glad you have like your grandma that you can take care of, like, not like I know you said take care of her, but like also she takes care of you in a way, which is so cool to see. And I think it's really important to have like a support system and a good support system as well. Like I think coping mechanisms are definitely great, and very helpful and useful. Um, but I think that they can only go so far. And if you don't have supportive people in your life, I don't think you're ever truly going to get where you want. And it doesn't have to be like family members either. I know plenty of people outside of family that I could call on if I needed. Now, my family is absolutely great. They're my number one support system. But some people don't have the family side of it, or they do, and their family doesn't exactly believe or think that they're as sick as they are. Um, I know a few of my friends have had that, like friends with health issues and stuff have had that, and it's really hard to see. And also be there for them because I'm like, I have something wrong with me, like mental wise, physical wise, like health wise, even just your everyday, like some days I'm just like, I'm sad. Like I just need a hug. I'll just go to my mom and be like, can I have a hug? Like I'm sad. And she'll be like, oh yeah, of course. And then like when you talk to your friends that maybe don't have that, and they're like, I'm like, well, can't you like ask your mom? Like, can't you go to your mom about this? And they're like, no. And I'm like, hmm. And so it definitely puts it into perspective. Because it's like if you don't have supportive people, I think that does take a toll on your mental health because then you start second guessing for yourself, or you don't feel like people believe you. You don't feel like it's real. Like I, I don't know. I can't relate to those emotions, but I definitely know people who have and who have felt that, and I can be there for them the best I can. Um, and so, but I don't know. I think like if you have a friend, um, pets are always good. Sometimes you don't need people to talk back in an answer. All you need is to be able to get it out. Unless you have a dog like me. I have a little rat terrier, Jack Russell mix, Romeo, who was barking previously. He likes to give his 2 cents often. He also doesn't say the nicest words, which is bad. But no, I think anyone that you could call on to be there for you, I think would really help. And I'm super, like I said, I'm super grateful for my support system, my family, Ethan, his family. I have, like I said, friends, Vicky, my fellow Yak members.
yeah,
Yeah, Kat, gosh, Zach,
yeah.
the whole 9 yards. I could go on. It's like you're receiving an award and you have your thank yous listed out. But no, I do think the support system is a big one too. Um, so, and two, I like what you said earlier about having art, and being able to express yourself. And like you said, kind of sharing your soul or expressing your soul. I don't remember exactly how you worded it. But I thought that was really cool. Art is big for me. I like to doodle. I was in art class in high school and I used to like actually sketch and do like full on art, like drawings and paintings and stuff. And now that I have a lot of like arthritis, I actually just got diagnosed with non-rheumatoid rheumatoid arthritis.
Huh.
So it's like make that make sense. Um, but it's basically joint pain that mimics rheumatoid arthritis, but is not rheumatoid arthritis. And like the rheumatoid arthritis meds won't necessarily help this. I just started a new med and I can't tell if it's working yet or not because it's just a few weeks in. And they said it could take 3 months for it to kick in fully because it has to build up over time. But because of my joint pain and stuff, I can't really hold a pencil like I used to, and I can't move my wrist and things like, as easily and as fluidly as I used to. So now I just do what I call stupid doodles. I put air quotes around that.
That's
And my goal is to one day turn those into stickers and sell them because they're fun, they're cute. Recently I drew a little UFO looking thing with a alien in it, and then there's just a shadow, like silhouette of a person that says "see you later." Like got the like beam coming down to pick them up.
I want 10 of them right now.
Yeah, I wish I could crank them out like that. I can't wait until I can, but and then my goal is to do stickers for my grape journals, like design my own and do that, and then I can decorate them however I want with my own stickers. So that'd be cool.
I have a kind of heavy question, if you don't mind.
Okay.
And I know you're also going through a heavy time because you lost someone who was, dear to you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any fears about your future? Like what it entails?
That's a very good question. I think about my future a lot, actually. It's not at all what I thought it would be back when I was younger. I think your future changes anyway. But yeah, it was definitely out of the blue. I lost a very good friend last month. Kind of trigger warning, I guess, but it was suicide. They were being bullied. They had a lot of survivor's guilt. They had just a lot of things going on that I don't think too many people knew about. They were a very outgoing, very fun. Um, they were just a really good person, and I'm very grateful for the time that we like got to talk and got to hang out and stuff. They also had a PI like us. I had actually met them at IDF, and so I mentored them for a while. And so it was tough hearing that news and realizing that like you won't see them anymore, or like you won't necessarily get to have the conversations that you did. And so, and I think about them like and what their future would have looked like. Like I know what they wanted to do. Mental health was super important to them. They advocated a lot for mental health. They advocated a lot for PI. That was very big to them. And so I guess in one way that I want to give back to them is to honor them with like talking about mental health and advocating for that. And like I guess just being there for others better in a way. And so when I think about like my future in that way, that is one thing that I want to really focus on is like really checking in with people. And when they say that they're okay, like if I know or get the sense that they aren't okay, not to push or to pry, because I don't think that's necessarily the way to go about it, but check in more often. Maybe don't even just be like, hey, how are you? Just like send a funny joke or a meme, or like if you think of them out during the day, like send them a picture of something that made you think of them. Like it doesn't always have to be like, how are you? Honestly, when people ask me how I am a lot nowadays, it's like, you're just asking to make small talk. You don't really care. So I say, I'm great. Thank you. How are you? And I'm very good at faking that, as I can imagine a whole bunch of other people are. And so I think if we were able to kind of switch it from "Are you okay?" or "How are you?" or you know questions like that, and just be like, "Hey, I saw this and thought of you," or like recently, just to like I guess give an example, Ethan's mom, she went for a walk around the NIH campus, And of course, my favorite color is purple. She found these real pretty purple, I think they're asters, the flower, and sent a picture to me and said, I thought of you when I saw these because they're like Cassie flowers. And I don't think she knows this, but asters are one of my favorite flowers. That was really cool. And I was like, that made my day. And she's like, oh, it was just a small picture or like a quick picture or something like that. And I was like, yeah, but that meant more than you know. Like, honestly. And like when people text me out of the blue and ask me like if I'm going to be at craft class, or because I do a craft class on Thursday nights. Well, it's one Thursday in a month. You go like every third Thursday or something. Um, and like they're like, hey, are you going to make it to craft class? And then I'm like, oh, like I am like wanted or needed or thought about. And that I think if I think I guess checking in on people like that, I think maybe help. So that's what I really try to work on now, is to the people, like when I reach out, not necessarily ask how are you, because I think in nowadays you just kind of get a fake answer anyway. So it's just like small talk. No one actually really,
Yeah.
um, but I think yeah, I think just trying my best to be there for others, and like reaching out better, and really advocating for mental health and bringing awareness to it, I think is how I want to, like, not better my future, but better my future when I think about it.
That's really beautiful. And is super important. And I think we're very fortunate to live in a time where mental health is being talked about more, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
as much of a taboo topic as it was a couple of years ago, even decades ago. But yeah, it puts a lot of things into perspective, especially if you're, I mean, with a chronic illness and you kind of have to deal with issues of mortality anyways.
Yeah.
It can be incredibly taxing. Because we have to think about things that other people don't have to think about at all, or it doesn't even cross their minds. Like, I know I talked about this a little bit um in the documentary, but being like, especially not having any sort of diagnosis, I have a little bit more direction than I did a couple of months ago, but having everything be up in the air and still feeling quite terrible and just trying to push through is so exhausting. And it makes you think, because you don't want to get stuck in the cycle of, oh, I can't do this, or I can't fulfill my potential because I'm sick or because I feel this way. But at the same time, you also have to acknowledge your personal limitations, what your body can handle. And I guess that, trying to figure that out, like where the intersection of those two ideas meet, has been incredibly difficult for me, because I've always been the type of person to just do everything for everybody and then put myself absolutely last. Um, I think you are that way too. So
Yeah.
uh,
I completely feel you on that.
yeah, so it's just trying to figure that out has been incredibly difficult, because next year I'll be applying to medical school.
That's exciting.
It's exciting but terrifying.
I'm sure.
It's all now, like the existential dread is now hitting me. I'm like, oh my gosh. This is the rest of my life we're talking about. And it's incredibly exciting. It's something I've wanted for so long. And then that little voice in the back of my mind is telling me that, oh, something's bad is going to happen to you, or you're not going to be able to handle it physically. And that really gets me into a spiral mentally. Because I don't want to have to live and have this be a constant plague on my mind.
Right.
It's a terrible way to live.
So what do you do when you have those thoughts? Like,
Oh
how do
gosh.
you work through it?
Well, I try to, obviously I talk to my family and I talk to you. Well, you're my family too, but
No.
all the IVF family. Um, I talk to Jesse, I talk to, anyone who's part of my support system, my close friends too. Um, and it helps. And I think also like being in tune with faith has also helped me bring me out of that like loop and that cycle. Um, but I mean, I still have bad days, just like everyone, especially on the days that I'm feeling so bad. And like for example, there was a day this week where I I frequently have to wake up at like 5:30 to 6 a.m. for school, and then I'm at school until 6:30 at night. So I get home and I'm absolutely exhausted, and I still have a mountain of work to do. And on top of that, I have to go shopping for groceries. And on top of that, I have to make sure that my grandma's okay and taken care of, which is a privilege, don't get me wrong. But it's so much to think about. And it becomes such a, I don't want to say burden because it's not a burden, but I'm likening it that way because of just how much it weighs on you.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes sense.
yeah. So I wake up and then, this particular day, I just could not get out of bed. My joints were acting up. My stomach was bothering me. I had a terrible migraine. And I'm like, oh gosh, because I've been having more of those days recently. And it just, then I start to think, like, Victoria, if you can't handle this now, how are you going to do this in medical school? How are
Yeah.
you going to do this, when you get married and have kids and, have people that depend on you to, perform your best at all times?
Hmm.
Um, it's, it's a lot. And I think, especially if you want to go into any sort of field like that or healthcare in general, um, and you have some sort of chronic illness going on, or you have other responsibilities, it's just a lot of things that you have to take into consideration when you're planning out your life. But then, as we know, life does not go to plan 95% of the time. So
True.
yeah, like you can make all these grand plans for yourself. And having something to look forward to is amazing,
Yeah.
but that is not the reality of the situation, and especially not the reality if you have chronic illness, because so much of it is just unexpected, unpredictable. It can take you out for days at a time, even weeks. You can be in the hospital. You can even be on death's door at any given moment, and you don't know when that will be. So all you can do is just live to the best of your ability, live with purpose, and just live like, you are going to die at the ripe old age of like 90, and you're going to look back on your life with absolutely no regrets, surrounded by family, people you love. I mean, I think that's all we can really do, because getting into the mindset of you won't be able to accomplish something because you have these limitations is quite maladaptive. But at the same time, you also have to realistically look at your situation. Yeah, and especially when you tie so much of your identity into what you want to accomplish. So if you don't accomplish those things, in a way, you feel like a failure.
Yeah. And you feel like you're not who you were supposed to be, too. I feel like.
Yeah. I feel, we just have these existential thoughts. It's like, do people actually think this way, or am I just crazy?
No, you're not crazy. Well, if you're crazy, then I think me and like 7 others that I know of are crazy.
Yeah.
But no, no, I completely understand how you're feeling or how you felt. And I get that. I actually wanted to, my first goal and my first like dream job is, and like my future when I thought about it in high school was I was going to be an art therapist. Because I absolutely love art. I love kids, and I love, this is gonna sound really weird, I love old people. Like when
Great.
like no, yeah, like my great grandma, she just passed away in May of last year from Alzheimer's. And she had been in the nursing home for I think like 13 or 14 years with it, and she suffered another 8 years at home before we put her in there. Just with Alzheimer's. And I would go out there and I would do crafts with her and her unit. And a lot of times the art therapist there would be like, hey, if you have an idea, I'll get the stuff. You tell me, I'll get the stuff, and you can teach it. And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah. And so a lot of times I would actually do the art therapy there. It gave me something to do. I was homebound from school, so sure, why not? And so I got to do that. And so that kind of what led me to it. And then I wanted to go to nursing homes and do it and like be like a traveling art therapist, if that was even a thing. I don't know, but that was my goal. I wanted to travel to different hospitals and go up to the pediatric floors and do art therapy with the kids. Because that was something that like I really remember when I was little and being hospitalized was the art therapists and just the positive people that always came in smiling, and they did stuff with you. They made it fun when it was not fun. And so that's kind of what I wanted to do for others. But then I realized in the time it would take me to do the schooling for it, I could not go full time. I would have to go part time. And even if I did half of the work, or half of what was required, it would take me twice as long. And right there is 16 years of schooling alone. And I thought, if I graduate at 18 and you add 16 years of schooling, and then you have to find a job, well, probably then you have to intern, and then you have to find a job. At that point, I might as well be at retirement. Like, forget it.
No, because it's more than medical school and like doctor training.
Yeah, because you have to go for art classes.
Yeah.
Which are hard in themselves because they say for however many hours you put into your art piece, your artwork in class, you have to do double that outside of class. Well, first of all, that's just not possible. Like,
who does? Yeah.
No. I love art just as much as like the next person, but no, that is not how this works. And a lot of the schools that I went to look at for it were very rude. And we're not accommodating at all. So I kind of got discouraged. And for a long while, I felt how you said, where you felt like you tied a lot of yourself and your identity to your dreams or goals. And so I was like, if I can't do art and I can't help others, I want no part of this. Like, I'm done. I'm going home. I'm going to bed. Woe is me. What does Ethan say? Pain, despair, and agony. Woe is me.
Yeah.
Quote Ethan.
Yeah.
So like it was awful there for a while because I was like, I can't do anything. Like if I can't do what I always thought I was gonna do, this is awful.
Yeah.
And then I had the bright idea, well, let's go to culinary school because I wanted to be a baker, but apparently you can't just start baking. So it was like, all right, even though that was actually one of my big coping things was I would bake. When I was on IVIG, okay, backstory here real quick. When
Of
I was
course.
on IVIG for like 4.5 years,
Mhm.
every infusion, I got them every 3 weeks. Every infusion, I did them at my doctor's office. And then my last year, well, half a year, I guess, I was at a cancer center. But every infusion, I would bake, I guess, something different for the nurses. Whether that be cupcakes, muffins, new cookies, breads, like friendship bread, zucchini bread, things like that.
Mhm.
Um, different like cheese balls with like sweet cheese balls. Like you would eat with like graham crackers or animal crackers, things like that. I would just come up with half the time I would bake with stuff that I couldn't eat, like peanut butter and a whole bunch of different stuff, just because like it wasn't for me anyway. Just because I can't eat it doesn't mean somebody else can't. I mean, I know there's people with allergies, but like,
Mhm.
so I was like, it's fine, because then it also deterred me from eating it. Because if I liked it, then I wouldn't give it away. So it's like, well, but no, I would bake for a while. But I tried culinary school, so that was a backstory. I tried culinary school, but with all my food allergies and being airborne allergic to oranges and like obviously the smell of oranges, um, they were like, well, we can't guarantee that. You can't be here. Well, thanks. So then that went out the drain. So then by them telling me I couldn't be there, even though it had nothing to do with my skill, I immediately stopped baking because that's it. I'm not good enough. Like
Yeah.
I'm done. Once again, I'm going to bed. I do not care. Um,
It's so
so
discouraging.
it's hard. It
Yeah.
is. It is. And it's hard when people tell you no or
Mhm.
that you can't do something. Like normally that just makes me want to do it that much more, but not when it's something that like you really want to do, like you see yourself doing, like a goal or a dream.
Mhm.
Um, and it's almost like reality checks. It's like, I think it's like God's way of being like, nope, this is not right for you, but like, could you be a little nicer? Um, uh, and sometimes it's like, um, I don't know, it's like, do I wish I would have been in culinary school anyway and just not told them about my allergies? Sure. But then if I had an issue and I knew about it, then it's like, well, you kind of set yourself up for failure anyway. And then how would they react?
Yeah.
But, um, but no, those are like my two main things that I wanted to do.
Mhm.
Currently, I'm just kind of at home.
Mhm.
Obviously volunteering for IDF, which is a huge like that I tell people whenever they're like, well, what do you do? Like, what do you do for a living? Um, I'm like, oh, nothing. Like, I'm just at home. And my mom's like, you are not just at home.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, well, what do you mean? And for the longest time, this is how I was about it. I was just like, well, I am. And she's like, what do you do for IDF? And I'm like, oh, well then, and then when I explain it, the person that like we're talking to is like, that's actually really cool and like really big. Like, you're doing amazing things. And I'm like, well, not really. Like, I get to be there for others. Like, that, it more helps me. And they're like, but look at all the people that you've probably helped. And
Yeah.
I never saw it that way for the longest time. I never truly saw it as I saw it as helping others, and I love that. That's why I started volunteering and being a mentor to teens, specifically the younger teens, because that's where I needed it most and
Mhm.
where I wish I could have had that most. Um, and so I think that's why that resonates with me so much working with the younger teens, is because it's like I can relate to how they're feeling. And
Mhm.
I want to be able to give back to them how I wish I could have had that. Um, but I never saw it as helping others as like a job. I saw it as something I got to do, and I got like what I got to do helped me in the long run. Like whenever we go in person to Teen Escapes or the conferences, it's like I automatically have this, like I call it like my battery, my internal battery, and it's like I am on empty, like I am dead.
Yeah.
And then like after Chicago, I was full. Like I was like, okay, I'm fully charged. Like I'm happy again. People who get it. And then it's like you're driving home and you're like feeling the high, and then you come back home and reality sets in, and you could start slowly feeling your battery go down and down and down. And it's like, I don't know, it's just eye-opening to me, because like I never thought me helping someone like how I guess how we are, I never saw that as a job.
Mhm.
Although now I see it like as my job, air quotes around that, like not a job, but people are like, well, you don't get paid for that. And it's like, well, no, not in money, but you get paid in so many other ways. And it is so rewarding to be there for others and like the relationships that come with it. Cause like, I mean, if I didn't go to IDF, I would have never met Ethan. And
Yeah.
that is a big part of my life. Like he is obviously probably one of the greatest things that has ever happened to me, like very top. And like our relationship, Vicky, and our friendship, and like you and Jesse's relationship.
Mhm.
And it's like, I guess you can like going back to it, heartbreakingly beautiful,
Mhm.
because you have something so awful. You think it's the end of the world. You don't know how long you have to live. At any point, you can get sick,
Mhm.
and it can turn for the worst, as we've all, I think, have had at some point in our life. But in the end, you have, at least for me, like you have IDF, where it's like, it is your light. And then it's like, what has come out of being bad?
Thank you for listening to Chronic 20s from the Immune Deficiency Foundation. This conversation will continue in part 2. Your support of the Immune Deficiency Foundation helps make sure people like Cassie and Victoria have the education, resources, and advocacy they deserve. To learn more about the Immune Deficiency Foundation or to get involved, visit primaryimmune.org/donate.